Well, it's great to get a few minutes with Feroz, who is a business development associate at Black Veatch. Feroz, thank you for taking the time to speak with us.
My pleasure. It's nice to be here and talking to you, Viraj.
Great. So let's start with your background. Which university did you go to? What was your major? And when did you graduate?
Sure. I went to the same university you did. I went to Purdue University in West Lafayette, Indiana. And my major was a bachelor's in electrical engineering. And I graduated May of 2018.
May of 2018. Gotcha. So let's talk about the timing of beginning your job search. When did you start searching for job opportunities?
So I think very seriously, I started my job search in my senior year. So I would say fall of 2017, because uh, like if you know, at Purdue we have career fair, one during fall and another during spring. So that's when I actually started, like you could say a year before my graduation.
So looking back now, what advice would you give to yourself in regards to when you started your job search?
Good question. So I think timing wise, a year is fine, and also depends on how career fairs are organized in your university.
Yeah.
But at Purdue specifically, like most of the recruiting for full time jobs happens in that fall career fair, and also companies are actually looking to recruit during fall, right? So I think timing wise it was right, but one advice I could give myself is actually start your job search way before, uh, with the beginning of your internship. So when you go to college, you don't know what you want to pursue. I mean, you know your major, but what, like even with electrical engineering degree, you'll see people pursuing many different career paths. So I think at least starting a bit before on this research, like what all exists, so that by the time you come for your full-time job search, you are for sure know these are like top three areas that I want to pursue in. So full-time job search, I would say, is fine starting a year before, but learning more about all different areas that you could go into, which is what I missed. By the time I came into senior year and started job search, I did not know of the careers, like few careers such as consulting that I could have gone into. That I wasn't aware of such things.
Yeah.
So I think that's the advice I would go, like give, like network around, talk to people, and learn about various different opportunities. And internships are the time where you could like learn more about yourself, what you like and what you don't like. Like that's the first time you are working in a corporate environment, like outside
Absolutely,
your
yeah.
classroom.
So let's talk about the approach for searching jobs. How did you approach your job search?
So my approach, being an international student, uh, the pool of companies for you is limited. So I guess my first approach was, I mainly focused on career fairs, like the companies that come to Purdue. I didn't look, at least when I started in the fall, any outside companies that were like that wouldn't recruit directly from Purdue. So my first focus was all the companies that come to Purdue, and then even within that, like your list shrinks down if you just focus on the companies that are sponsoring visa or have hired international students in the past. So target those companies is what I did, and then even the companies that are not hiring international students, it's also good to talk to them just to learn about what's happening in the industry, so that you could treat it as a practice run and then actually come to the company you want to talk and be more presentable and sound smart. So my approach was like I had targeted like these are the companies I want to talk to. Our career fairs were for like 2 days. So first day I have this 5 companies I want to talk to. Second day these next 5, and if I get in between time, I would talk to the other companies. But other than that, I didn't look for any outside companies.
Okay.
And so that was my like direct approach.
Got
and
it.
once I'm doing a bit of research about the companies beforehand, like being prepared, right? What does the company do? Uh, so being able to hold that conversation and differentiate yourself, like when you're talking, it matters. I think that's how I have gotten the interviews I have gotten.
Yeah.
So there are like people. If you've seen this career fairs, like people are just trying to play this numbers game. If I talk to 10 companies, if I get 2 interviews out of that, it's and 1 job out of that, like uh, that's good. So it's but if you approach it like doing a pre-research a bit about the company, and even if you're not talking to 10, just 5, but those are quality conversations,
Yeah.
and you differentiated yourself from someone who's standing in the line and who just wanted to like check the box, oh, I spoke to this company. So
Yes.
differentiating yourself, I think that was my approach.
Now,
Right.
if you were to look back, uh, what would you have done differently when it comes to the approach you took for job search? Were there any learnings along the way, or would you have focused on something else? Like, what would you have done differently?
Again, good question. So I would say when I say like I did this approach, I think one different thing I could have done is I did like when I said research, I was like, okay, I would just go learn about this company online, what their products are, and like just my online research, and maybe look up a few people on LinkedIn and try connecting with them. And that takes a long time, like trying to connect people and learning about them. So maybe I could have uh, looked around my network and found someone. Like again, going back to my previous point,
Yeah.
if someone has already worked in this company and they are already at Purdue, so talking to them and see uh, what was their work like, and that would also give me like I could bring up a potential project they worked in the past, even though I have not worked at the company.
Yes.
So I think that would have helped me looking back. And and I said I targeted only like career fairs, but the timing as it passed from fall of 2017 to spring of 2018, and when things moved on, I increased that subset to actually applying to many different companies, even the companies that don't recruit from uh, Purdue. And I was also trying to play this numbers game. If I do 100 applications, get like even 5 interviews, but that did not work for me. So
Okay.
I think going back in time, if I had the chance, I would say just focus on the companies that will recruit from you, and try to actually talk to people, because online applications I didn't have any luck like hearing
Yes.
back. So another factor is like you keep applying online and you don't hear back, you get demotivated.
Yes.
So I would have taken this more this more direct, I mean, this approach of having more quality conversations, like trying to find people in my network and maybe asking them for like connections to the recruiters or
Yes.
connections to their old managers,
Yeah.
like or maybe even recommendation or like a connection request saying, oh, I know this person, he is in my class and he does well in this subject, and I think he'll be a good fit for your team. So I
Amazing.
think doing this way I would have had better chances of success.
So let's talk about getting interviews. Was there anything in particular that you were doing to actually get interviews from the companies you applied for? If so, what was that?
Yeah, so I think anytime you just apply online, like at least me personally, I get like nervous. Oh, what if they don't see my resume at all, or if it's just in this big pile and they don't even see? So, and you, my understanding was like people are the decision makers. So try to find someone to at least first look at my resume. So that was easy during career fairs because you actually hand out to them, and easy but hard, like many people hand out resumes to them, so you need to differentiate there by your conversations, like stand
Yes.
out. So uh, and the other way, just even if I had just applied online and tried to find someone, like LinkedIn is a really really good resource. You
Mm-hmm.
could look up like keywords of the from the job description or the team or the similar things. So like 80% of the time you probably find someone within the team or someone who knows and works in the team. So I think you could try to get them to like a 15-20 minute conversation with them. Hey, I have applied online. So uh, people are willing to help. Like, you'll be surprised how many people are willing to help
Yes.
if you just reach out to them.
Yes.
So I didn't do it I didn't do it much more, but I did it few times and I had good luck with it.
Good, guys.
Sometimes I didn't.
That's a
So
great
I
learning.
think that
That's a great learning.
yes. So doing more of
Would have
that
helped you. Gotcha.
like you increase your chances. So
Nice.
even by a little to get the interview.
So let's talk about preparing for interviews. You've applied online. You've done your part to get the interviews. Now you have an interview. How are you preparing for it? How did you prepare for it?
Yes. Again, depends on the companies. Like each company has its own way. Like they do 2 rounds, 3 rounds. So you can find online, and there are like many different websites. I think Glassdoor is good good one to get like past into sort of questions and what was how it worked and stuff.
Hmm.
But mainly they have behavioral. I think each company has a form of this, like behavioral interview questions, then HR, then uh, technical. I mean, at least in my interviews, I think technical applies more towards CS and different sort of majors. But for my major, there wasn't like a huge technical question where they were asking me to solve this coding challenge or anything. I mean, there were technical questions related to my classes and some and the applications of those in the real world. So I studied electrical engineering, so they would sometimes ask me about uh, their products, like how it, like what I studied applies, or they could go back into to the fundamentals.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that helps, like learn all about the company and their products and try to apply your classroom knowledge, like either relate things from your practicals you did in your classroom or something you learned in theory. So that, and always be prepared with good stories for your behavior. That's always the case. And I think you need to talk to HR, you need to talk to someone who's not in the team, or so there are always behavioral interviews. So find a list of like this common interview questions, and you can have your stories throughout your college experience and even from the past and from your internship,
Yeah.
and be very well prepared with your stories in STAR method. And I think everyone knows what STAR is if you're in the process of interviews. So have like stories, and that's the way you impress at least first few rounds.
Yes.
Then the final one is a bit more technical, which is where they're trying to evaluate if you can actually do the job. So first few rounds are just about yourself, if you can fit in. They're trying to see if you fit in with the culture. What's your like how have you worked in the past? Like how do you approach?
Mm-hmm.
So first few rounds are just like your cultural fit and stuff.
Nice.
And for that, I think you need really good stories. And
Good
next
stories.
is when you can impress with your classroom and like other technical skills.
And looking back now, would you have done something different about preparing for interviews? Would there be like a different approach that you would have taken?
Yes, I would reinforce like this star stories again. When I was doing this, I was like, oh, it's my life, it's my stories, so I should be fine saying it. But what matters is so much is how you tell the story. So being more polished, being more, you don't have like all the time to just keep going on and on. Like you have 2 to 3 minutes, so
Yes.
keep it short and simple. So
Yes.
that comes with practice, and that comes with you writing down your stories. So I would reinforce this, like even if it's your stories, even though you think you know everything about yourself,
Mm-hmm.
but it's still helpful how you present it. So that's
Yes.
very important. And practice with your friends, practice in front of the mirror, write them down, record. Just just be anything and be more like presentable, and you need to get
Yes.
across the point in very short amount of time.
Let's pivot towards Black and Veatch. Let's talk about some
Mm-hmm.
company-specific questions. How did you come across your specific role, your first role at
Mm-hmm.
Black and Veatch? I see that you have had multiple roles. So your first role of
Right.
electrical engineer, right? How did you come across that
hmm
electrical engineering role at Black Veatch?
hmm So again, they came to career fair, and
Okay.
like at Purdue, if you remember, they like companies do presentations a day before.
Okay.
So I did not know anything about the company as Black and Veatch before I went into the like before they came to career fair.
Okay.
So I was trying to like again shortlist which companies I want to talk to next day, but and also go to their presentations a day before. So this is the one that I got curious because they had many different industries. Like they do work in power, telecom, water, so all like critical human infrastructure. And I was a bit of a generalist in that I didn't know. I mean, I studied electrical engineering, but I was not sure about like whether I want to pursue this one thing or the next. So I wanted to keep my options open. That's what interested me about, oh, let me go see like what this company is
Yes.
and what like they have many different paths here. So I went to their information session a day before, and I got to learn more about like what their industries they work in and few past projects. So they actually brought their engineer and also HR people. So that excited me, um, and I could and relate like how my experience relates to what they're doing. So I next day when I went, and I think that's how, because I was already well prepared and had spoken to them a day before,
Yes.
so that increased my chances. And and uh, and I spoke like few things I had learned a day before and how it relates to my work and my studies.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy I was speaking to was actually a Purdue alum, so he had graduated I think a year or two before me.
Okay.
So and and the interview itself was also so common. Like we were talking about, oh, you took that class, I took that class. So it was this back and forth because we had the similar experiences.
Yes.
So that's how I came across this role at my company, at
Nice.
least my first role.
Gotcha. What was the interview process like?
Sure. At my company, at least for this role, it was talking to him for I think an hour or half. I'm not sure.
So talking to
So
the electrical engineer,
it was
right?
a combination.
Talking to the electrical
Right. So
engineer
they
for
did
one
on
hour.
electrical engineer. They did on campus like interview.
Okay.
So talking to him, it was a combination of both mixed behavioral and technical questions about my classes. So that was the first step. And the next, at least this was pre-COVID, right, 2018. So after a few days, they called me for an on-site interview. I had an interview, if I remember correctly, with four different people. First with HR general, like they tell you about the benefits and ask a few behavioral questions. Then next, actually uh, with a few team members in this role, depending on like different levels, like someone who's just like 2 to 3 years in their career, and someone who's much ahead, and also someone who's like an engineering manager who's managing the team as a whole. So that was a bit common theme across many different interviews. Like this is how they interview,
Mm-hmm.
and at least for my interview, like four different people, and they each had a different theme to evaluate. Like someone had like aspirations, someone had like technical skills. So their questions were focused around like each of these themes they were trying to evaluate me on.
Interesting. How long after the interview
Yes.
did you get the offer?
I don't remember exactly now, but I don't think it was too long, maybe a few days to a week's time.
Okay.
And this again depends on the timing, this depends on the company, this depends on the need for the team.
Yes.
So this depends on many different factors, so it
Of
can't be
course.
same.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. But gotcha. All right. What else do we have? So, closing remarks. Any last piece of advice for any international student right now who is listening to this and who is looking for a job opportunity, full-time job opportunity? Any last piece of advice from your standpoint?
Uh, yeah, I mean, I would just reiterate what I said before. Expand your network. Probably harder these days because you're not on campus and everything is spread out. Uh, like people are virtual. So my advice would be try to connect to people, your friends, and also people studying who have studied and graduated in the past, and learning about different career options and whether their company is hiring internationals or not. Even those few companies say they don't online, uh, but they still do. So that helps to actually talk to people. So there might be more options available for you company wise than expected. So doing that and expand your network. I think that's my biggest advice: networking, networking, networking.
Great.
Yes.
Feroz, thank you for taking the time. Really appreciate it.